Hello everyone and welcome to today's special edition of the RVS webinar. We call this webinar a backup camera bootcamp because what we're doing here is kind of going back to the basics and speaking about the concepts and details in our wired and wireless camera systems. As usual, the way the webinar is going to work is I'll be the only one able to speak, and everyone will be able to hear and contribute using the chat on the left. So if you have any questions or comments, make sure to put them into the chat. There's a ask question option on the top of the screen that you might see. Probably best if you don't use that. I may not see you during the webinar, so if you have a question or a comment, use the chat, which is on the left of your screen. First of all, just before we start, is everyone able to hear me and see the screen? It should say RVS Webinar Series. Looks like we're all good. Okay. Awesome. So for those of you who come on our bi-monthly webinar, welcome back. Today's going to be a little bit more in detail. So it's going to be a little bit more technical, a little bit more in detail, and really as much questions that you guys have is better. So if you have any questions or if something didn't make sense, make sure to let me know and notify me in the chat. Okay, we're going to get right into it. Okay, so first of all, I just want to let you know that the concepts are going to be, or what we're going to speak about now is going to be more concepts rather than specific systems and models. So we'll speak about kind of general, in general the way our wired systems work and in general the way our wireless systems work, rather than, how a specific model works. So it's going to be topics like the waterproofing of the backup cameras, night vision, how things get power, wireless transmission and pairing, so there's concepts like that. To start with, we'll speak about the waterproof and IP rating of our cameras. So obviously, almost all of our cameras, besides for the ones that are designed for indoor use or to be inside the vehicle, are going to be completely waterproof and weatherproof and will be able to be used in all kind of weather conditions. These cameras, obviously mount outside the vehicle and therefore need to be able to withstand all weather. The way the international standard for waterproofing or waterproof object is called an IP rating. So you've probably seen this, I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with this already. On our site and in a lot of our literature, we kind of highlight the IP rating of our cameras. So we'll just speak about that quickly today to make sure you understand what it means. Most of our cameras have an IP68 rating, which is actually the second highest IP rating there is. Some have an IP69K rating, which is actually the highest IP rating. We'll take a look at that right now in a little bit more detail. So if you look at the chart here, obviously this is not all the IP ratings there are or that exist. I kind of just took the top bunch. The way the IP rating works is that the first digit is going to represent protection that the object has from solids, so from dust and particles. The first digit there after IP will say how protected the object is, and the 6 represents basically the most protected that an object is from dust and particles. So all our cameras are at least IP6, meaning that they're all completely protected from dust and particles. The second digit represents how protected the object is from liquids. And as you can see there in the chart, IP68, which is what most of our cameras are, is the second highest rating, which means not only is it protected from, rain or splashes of water, you can be completely immersed in water, even for a couple hours, and it'll still, be guaranteed to work. IP69K, which some of our cameras are as well, is actually the highest IP rating there is, and that means that it can be, obviously immersed in water, but also protected from high pressure hot jets, which is basically means any weather, all and any weather conditions it can handle. So let's just a quick look at what IP rating that you've probably seen around means. Any questions on that so far? All right, looks like we're all good. Moving right along. Salt spray. Christopher has a question. Salt spray. That is a good question. I'm actually not sure. I'm fairly sure that the IP68 and IP69K is protected from that. You will have to consult our tech team though. So send me an email, or probably best just send me an email after this in reply to the webinar recording, and we'll get you the answer for that. All right, moving right along here. We're going to speak about the night vision and infrared aspects of the camera. So again, all of our cameras have really excellent night vision, and just something I want to point out in the beginning of this discussion is that a camera does not need to have infrareds to have a good night vision. In fact, like I say right over there, most of the cameras, even without infrareds, still have excellent night vision, still will give you a good view, even at nighttime. And the way that works is that these days, especially the newer cameras that are coming out, have sensors that have really good light sensitivity. So as long as there's ambient light around, which means as long as there's some light in the area, it'll be able to pick that up and really kind of use it to provide a good view even at night. The way the way infrared work is that there's actually a light emitted by the infrared lights, and that illuminates an area where the camera is pointing, and therefore the camera is able to pick up a good view at night. We actually don't see those. It's a frequency that's not seen by the human eye, but it's like you can just imagine the camera has a floodlight kind of built into it, and it's actually illuminating an area, and therefore it's going to be able to provide a good view. So the camera lens basically is able to view infrared light, human eye not able to view it. And therefore, you don't see any light coming out of the camera, but it kind of is there and illuminating the darkness. The question is, what do you need, or what's best for me? So it really depends. For the most part, if you're putting this just on like a regular kind of small vehicle, you're driving in the city, you don't necessarily need infrared in your backup camera. For I would say 98% of the time, you'll get a good view out of your backup camera just with the extra strong light sensitivity. If you drive in areas where there's absolutely no light, you live outside a city, that's really going to be where you really need those infrareds, because you need some light created to be able to see anything. You're not going to be able to pull up anything just without the infrareds. So basically, if you want a guaranteed image at night, no matter where you're driving, no matter how dark it is, no matter how much ambient light is around, best to go with a camera with infrareds. If you drive mainly in the city, there's almost always going to be at least a little bit of light around, even at night. You will most probably be fine with the camera without infrareds. Any questions here? I'm just going to go through kind of each concept, each topic, and then open up for questions, and then move on to the next, basically. It seems like it's pretty straightforward. Going on to power connection. This is going to be different when we're speaking about wired systems and wireless systems, but it's a common question that we get, and that is, how do the systems get power? So the way it works in wired systems is that there's a kind of central unit which everything connects to, and then that connects to power. So if you look in the images there, you'll see the multiplex on the left or a power harness on the right. They both basically have the same idea. They have a couple camera ports, and then where the camera cables plug into, and then a monitor port for the display for the backup camera, and then the same unit connects to power. So for the most part, that'll be connected to the fuse box in the front of the vehicle, and that will power the entire system. So the camera, the infrareds, the monitor, the screen, everything is powered from the same unit, and all it needs is 12 volts of power, almost all our systems, to work. One thing I do want to point out is that we're actually moving our wired systems. A lot of them came with a multiplexer, and we're actually moving most of them in the next, well, it's actually happening already, but within the next couple of weeks it'll be done. Most of the wired systems will actually be coming with a power harness. The reason for that is just a little bit easier to install. As you can see, the multiplexer is like a box, and you need to kind of find a place for it. Power harness is just cabling, and you're anyhow wiring cabling, so it's just a little bit of an easier install. And then all the functions of the multiplexer will be built into the actual monitor with these new systems. But the point is, it's just one power source that you need for the wired systems. I think we had a question here. Ed has a question here. Is 24, I guess, VC available? Yeah, so almost all our systems actually can handle voltage from 12 to 24 volts. So you can connect it into 24 volts, you'll be fine as well. With wireless systems, so because there's no cable connections between the units, so for example, there's nothing physically connecting the camera and the monitor, you actually need a separate power source for each. So a common question that we get is, how come the wireless camera, you say it's wireless, but I see wires coming out of it? And the answer is very simple, that you're not connecting the camera to the monitor, but you are connecting the camera still to power. It still needs power to, in order to function. The wireless connection just means that the connectivity from camera to monitor is going to be wireless. So let's say you have a backup camera, 2 side cameras, and a monitor with a wireless system. You'll need to connect each unit to power. It's usually pretty simple. A backup camera, for example, can just tap into 12 volts of power in the back of the vehicle, which could be running lights or reverse power. That exists for the reverse lights in the rear of the vehicle. Anyone kind of familiar with auto mechanics would have a pretty easy time kind of getting power for each of these components. And yeah, again, they just need 12 volts of power in order to function. Derek has a question here. Do any of your systems use battery, and if so, how long do they last on average? Great question. We do have some systems that use battery. It's only really our hitch cameras. We have hitch cameras which are wireless, and the camera, instead of wiring to power, so it's more of a permanent install, it has a built-in battery, and that way you just need to kind of magnetically place it at the rear of the vehicle, and it's ready to go. It's ready to work. The thing is, with batteries, they only do last a couple hours. I think it's 5 to 6 hours. So it's not really designed for continuous use. It's really just on our hitch cameras, when you want to use a camera for 5 to 10 minutes while you're backing up your pickup truck to your fifth wheel or your trailer, you can use a hitch camera just for those 5 minutes, and that way the 5-6 hours of battery time can last you a while. But for a camera that you want to use continuously, every time you back up, much better to use a camera that actually wires into a constant power source. That way you don't have to replace batteries, every couple hours or drives. Do you recorders for multiple cameras? Steve has a question about recording cameras. So I actually didn't really touch on this in this webinar. We had to kind of fit it into a half hour, so I'm really not speaking about recording at all. But yeah, we have a whole line of recording systems, and all of our wired cameras can connect to we have a Mobile Mule DVR series. You can connect to that, and you can record all camera feeds. One more question here. What is a typical amp draw? Don has a question about the amp draw. Great question. I actually don't know it offhand again, but our tech team can get to that answer in a second. So once again, you can just reply. Everyone will get an email with the recording of the webinar. You can just reply directly to that. It will come to me, and we'll get an answer out to that very easily. Okay, any more questions on power and power supply to the systems before we move along? Okay. Trigger wires, also kind of connected to power. The trigger wires are a really, really cool part of all of our systems. Something that we do get a whole lot of questions on. It's a little bit technical, so if I get lost in this, just let me know, and we'll try to keep it simple. The trigger wires basically allow you to different functions to happen automatically on the camera system based on actions that the driver takes. So for example, If you want the backup camera to come on automatically when you go into reverse, you'll use what we call trigger wires. Or if you want the side camera to come on automatically when you hit a turn signal, again, you'll use a trigger wire for that. So the basic way that the systems work in general is that while they're on, the screen is actually not necessarily displaying a view. The default way that the systems work is that everything's powered, but there's not going to be a constant view from on the monitor displayed. So what the usual function is that when you go into reverse, that's when the monitor will trigger on automatically. The way that works is really simple, and that is that each of the ports have a corresponding trigger wire. So the backup camera, for example, you plug it into port number 3. All you need to do is take the corresponding trigger wire and connect that to reverse power, for example, which is something that comes on when you go into reverse. That way, whenever you go into reverse, that trigger will be activated, and that will automatically allow the system to display the camera on the monitor. Same thing for side cameras. What you do is you connect them to the turn signal power, and that way when you hit the turn signals, so for example, if you have the right camera trigger connected to the right turn signal, when you hit the right turn signal, the right side camera will come on. Just one detail there as well, that is that there's a delay built into the side triggers, because the turn signal, it blinks on and off, so it's only getting power every couple of seconds. So what we did there is that we allowed it that as long as the trigger wire is getting power every couple of seconds, I think the default is 5 seconds, it can actually be adjusted. That will be enough for the side camera image to remain on. So in other words, the trigger, as long as it's getting power every couple of seconds, will keep the side camera view remaining on the monitor. Okay, a couple questions here. Before I get to the questions, just one more detail I want to mention, and that is the triggers have priority, they have preference. So if you wire the 2 trigger wires to the same power source, for example, or if you have your turn signal on together with the reverse power on, there's actually a priority, and the reverse power is the one that the reverse trigger is the one that takes priority. And so if you activate both the side trigger, for example, and the backup camera trigger is the one that'll override the other one, and it'll display the view from the backup camera. A couple questions. Is there a built-in fuse? Yes, this is kind of related to the power on the previous slide, but yeah, I believe it's a 3 amp fuse that's built into all of our wired systems. So yeah, you can easily replace that if it does blow. Charles has a question, is there an option for continuous viewing? Yes, so what you could do if you want to continuously view it is you can wire the trigger wire together with the regular power wire to ignition power. And that way, as soon as you turn on the vehicle, not only will the system get power, but it'll actually turn on as well. That's one option. Another option is that you can always manually control the system. So the trigger wires, all they do is that they affect auto control. So if you want something to happen automatically when you turn on the vehicle or when you go into reverse, that's what the triggers control. Even without the triggers, though, you can not connect any of the trigger wires and still control the system manually by pressing the power button, switching through the channels with the buttons on the monitor. So you always have that control manually. The trigger wires is just if you want to have added control from actions that the driver takes. Okay, one more question here. Ed has a question. Can the side camera be on continuous to aid in lane change? Yeah, you definitely can do that. What you do is you would connect the trigger wire connected to that side camera. So let's say you want the right side camera to be on always while you drive. You simply connect that trigger wire for the right side camera together with the power wire for the system as a whole to ignition power, and that way as soon as you turn on the vehicle, the system will turn on and you'll also see the view from the right side camera continuously. That was a little bit technical. Let me know if you guys are still with me, if that was helpful, and if you have any questions there. Perfect, good, all right, cool. All right, we'll move. One more question here. Rick has a question. Can you have continuous rear view camera and still activate lane change views? Really good question. You can. What you would do is, you would basically not connect the. So the issue here is that the rear camera trigger is going to override the lane change cameras if you connect both of them. So the best way to do what you're doing, Rick, is to actually not connect the backup camera trigger, and then when you turn on the vehicle, just manually turn on the monitor, and that'll keep the system on with the backup camera view for the whole time that you're driving. And then when you hit the turn signals, that'll then override the default view and give you the side camera view. Another detail there is that the system has a built-in memory, so that if you manually turn it on, for example, like we just said, and then you turn off the vehicle, the next day you drive again, you turn on the vehicle, it'll remember that you had manually turned it on, and so it'll put the display on automatically. So that's basically how you would affect that. But that is actually a pretty common question. Okay, moving right along. We will speak about camera audio very quickly. Just a couple kind of details. We have some questions. We often have some questions on it, and that is, for the most part, people are not hearing audio and they don't, quite understand why. So I just want to go over a couple things to make sure to make sure that you have, or to get audio working on your camera. First of all, you have to make sure that the system has audio, so that the camera has a mic and that the monitor has a speaker. You also have to make sure that the camera is plugged either into port number 2 or 3. Those are the only 2 ports that are going to kind of hold audio. One other detail, in port number 3, you have to make sure that the trigger wire is connected. That's the only time that a camera is going to actually give you audio, when you're plugged into port number 3. The reason for that is really just because, for the most part, you only want that audio when you are going into reverse, and therefore we tied it to the trigger wire so that only when you go into reverse will that audio come in. One last detail here is that make sure that the volume is up on the monitor. On the monitor itself, you basically have a range of menu options, and you can put up and down the volume. You want to make sure that the volume is up and loud enough in order to hear audio from the camera. So that's just one other detail. Basically, just a couple quick checks in order to make sure that your audio is working. Joe has a question: do the side view cameras have grid lines? Great questions. The side view cameras do not have grid lines. So grid lines are really just designed for the backup camera. None of the side cameras, I'm pretty sure none of the side cameras do have any of those grid lines. Any questions here on the camera audio? Okay, moving right along, we're going to speak about mirror monitors quickly. Pretty straightforward, but I just wanted to touch on this because it's a big kind of aspect of our wired systems. We have a range of mirror monitors, and the way they work is that they mount where the existing rear view mirror mounts in the vehicle. So either they clip onto the existing rear view mirror and kind of cover it, like you see on the second image there, or they replace it and connect right to the dash as the rearview mirror would. Both ways they kind of replace the existing rearview mirror in the vehicle. They also come in 2 ways, 2 types. We have a reflective rearview mirror and a non-reflective rearview mirror monitor. The reflective one is, as you see on the right of the slide here, it basically works as a rearview mirror and as a display for the backup camera. And the way that works is that for the regular driving, the display for the backup camera is not going to be on, so it'll just be like a regular rearview mirror. It'll be fully reflective, and then when you go into reverse, that little 4.5-inch screen, as you see in that image there, will kick on, and you'll see the view from the backup camera. So you're basically getting like a 2-in-1 rearview mirror together with a display for the camera. The other type that we have is a non-reflective rearview mirror, and these are larger. They're usually about a 7-inch display. And the idea here is that you use them in vehicles where you don't really need, or you can't use, a rear view mirror, like most RVs and box trucks, or even a lot of cargo vans. there's basically no way to see out the rear of the vehicle with a rear view mirror, and therefore it's quite a popular mounting choice, or quite a popular monitor to use to view the backup camera. Okay, any questions here? Pretty straightforward, I think. Last thing that we're going to speak about here, we're running out of time just a little bit, but last thing that we want to speak about is the wireless transmission and pairing on our wireless systems. So the transmission distance in our wireless systems is either 70 feet or 100 feet. So the newer Simple Sight series that we came out with about a year or so ago actually goes up to 100 feet. The rest of them is 70 feet, so you have to be within that range in order for it to work properly. The wireless signal, it's a digital wireless signal, similar technology to Bluetooth, which means it's a fixed signal. It's not going to get interference. So a common question that we get is, what if I have other wireless devices? I have, a tire pressure monitoring system or something like that. Will this cause interference? And the answer is absolutely not. It's completely independent, and it's a fixed signal. It's not going to get interference from, any other device. With regards to pairing, the way it works is most of our systems, the way that you pair the camera and monitor is that you basically just need to put them both into pair mode. So from the menu in the monitor, you put the monitor into pair mode, and then you go to the camera in the back and you press like a pair button. That puts both of them into a pairing mode, and then they can, sync and pair together. Our newer systems, the Simple Sight systems, actually have a really cool feature called auto pair, and that allows you to pair the camera and monitor together without actually having to, go up to the camera. And the way that works is you put the monitor into pairing mode, and then all you need to do is set power to the camera, and it'll automatically pair to the monitor. So, for example, if you have a truck and trailer application, you have your monitor mounted in your truck, you put it into pair mode, you connect you connect the truck to the trailer and then set power to the trailer, which would give power to the camera as well, and that'll automatically pair them together. So it means that you don't really need to have two people, one climbing up to the camera and hitting pair and one hitting pair on the monitor. It's a much easier process. A couple questions here. Derek asks, are those transmission distance line of sight numbers only? No. So that graphic is a little misleading actually. It doesn't have to be, the camera and monitor seeing each other. It could be even with obstacles in between them. It'll still work up to 70 feet or up to that 100 feet. So we call it the unobstructed viewing range. The unobstructed transmission distance is usually quite a bit further than that, but the obstructed transmission distance, say that quickly, is going to be either the 70 feet or that 100 feet. Charles asks, can I use a wireless backup camera on the rear of an aluminum travel trailer? Does metal cause problems with the wireless transmission? Yeah, so aluminum actually does cause some trouble with wireless systems. So some of our wireless systems will have trouble with it. It usually will work, but we won't guarantee it with aluminum travel trailers. With the new Simple Sight series, this problem was fixed, and you don't have any more, issue with the aluminum travel trailers or with transmitting kind of through an aluminum body. You'll be fine even with that. Sure. I'll just repeat that with regards to the wireless transmission and aluminum. So there was, in our older wireless systems, there was some trouble that we had with transmitting through an aluminum body. So if you have like an aluminum body RV, transmitting kind of through that did sometimes cause issue with the wireless transmission. And newer systems, the Simple Sight series, the ones that we came out with about a year or so ago, they don't have that issue. So even if you have an aluminum body truck or trailer, RV, you won't have any issue with the wireless transmission. Okay, and that was all for today. Glad we made it through. There was a lot to cover, and it was a little bit detailed. And we could do a series like these where we go into detail in different topics, like our recording systems or other systems. And you can definitely let us know if this is helpful, and we could do others like it. Derek has a question. What is a special feature of SimpleSide that helps with that? I actually don't know the technical details, but again, you can email us. Our tech team will be able to help you a little bit more than myself. But yeah, the problem doesn't exist in the new ones. Okay, so that basically ends the bulk of the webinar. I'll be here for a couple more minutes just to answer any questions. And yeah, thank you all for joining, and I hope you enjoyed. Question here from Earl. Is there an easy way to determine if my customer has an older series versus the new series you mentioned? Yeah, that's a good question. The systems actually look different, so there should be a pretty easy way to tell the difference. Again, probably best to email us, and we can let you know that. But yeah, it should be a pretty simple way to tell the difference. One second. Sandy would like a webinar on the recording systems. All right, I think it's a good idea as well. We can do another bootcamp kind of style, in-depth webinar on our mobile mill systems. It probably will be even more technical than this one, so get ready for it. But yeah, we could definitely do it. Quick question for a newbie by Nick. Our factory and third brake cameras FMVSS. Our factory third brake cameras FMVSS. So with FMVSS, the new regulations, for those of you who are unaware, there's basically some new regulations which require a certain view, a minimum view behind a vehicle, or behind certain vehicles. So we actually do have third brake light cameras specific for FMVSS. I think it's the RVS-1016 off the top of my head. Let me just check. And that one is actually, we came out with it recently, and it was specific for FMVSS in order to fulfill the requirements. But in general, most of our cameras do kind of fulfill the requirement for the vehicle. It just really depends on how you mount it and if you mount it correctly, but for the most part they do fulfill that requirement. We have another question in here. What is warranty on camera system? So the default warranty is a 1-year warranty, and that's going to be on all our wired and wireless all our wired and wireless systems. Yeah, it's a 1-year warranty. I have a M998 Humvee. I want a wire system with the side monitors and backup camera. What system would you recommend? Ed, probably best if you email me. I'll send you out a link with a couple of systems that I recommend for that. Don has a question. Do you think the cost of these will go up in 2019 due to new tariffs? No, that shouldn't be affected at all. The cost will remain consistent. Would like the name of someone knowledgeable in the organization to discuss complicated application of side view monitoring, front view, and rear view with recording capability. Don, send us an email, or send me an email in reply to the registration recording that you'll get, and we'll definitely get one of our customer service people on this. They're really knowledgeable, and we'll be able to get you out, any system that you need. William has a question. Can you tell me why my grid lines only blink? Why my grid lines only blink? Off the top of my head, it could be something to do with the trigger wires. That's what I would just imagine, because grid lines are also connected to the trigger wire. You have to have the trigger wire connected in order to see the grid lines. So that would just be my top of the head suggestion. But best, again, to get in touch with our tech team. They're really good, and we can definitely get to the bottom of it. Lay wants to know the model numbers for the newer wireless systems. Sure, I can just type them out in this chat. We have oopsie, that was a mistake. Ignore that. We have the RVS 155W. That's the one-channel SimpleSide series. Then we have the 255W, which is a 2-channel. And then we have one more, which is a 355W, which is an interesting system. It has a wireless backup camera, and it has wired ports for the side cameras. But yeah, you can just go to our website and go to wireless systems. You'll see all the wireless options that we have there. No worries though. One more question here. John, how impacted will be by the tariffs on imports? I don't believe we will be. I mean, I really don't know the details, but as far as I understand, it's not affecting us as of yet. But it's something that's not quite my department. So again, you can email us, and we'll let you know everything there is about that. All right. We're going to wrap it up here. I'm going to get off the line. Thank you, everyone, for joining. Thanks for all the questions. Really appreciate input, from our customers. And yeah, we may do another one of these in depth on the recording systems on our DVR series, Mill Mule series. Thanks again. Take care.